Hello, my delicious co-creators. Lilou here. I'm outside of Sedona, not far from Cornville, not far from Cottonwood, pretty much in the middle of the desert, could we say, in the middle of nature, definitely, with Dean, one of my favorite. Dean, hello.
Hi, Lilou. And we're in the middle of the national forest in the desert all by ourselves out here. Perfect healing place.
Yes, and we're going to talk about healing, and this is very important. I'm happy to be back here and to interview again, Dean. We met several years ago. You even met my dad, and we had just this great time here. You have, and I can say this place here in America and around the world is just unique. And it's a healing place, it's a sacred place, and it's a place to heal the addictions. So if you know somebody that has addictions or that would like to let go of that, to live fully their potential, their life, and just rediscover who they are, this is a great place. This is a great video to send them, because we're going to speak about that. You recovered yourself from addictions, and you have helped hundreds and hundreds of people here holistically. So this is very important, because let's talk about, the healing. Like, what does it take really to heal? Because there's different aspects to look at, not just one, not just the physical, not just the brain, not just the emotional, but it's very important in your heart, Dina, that this is treated or this is healed holistically.
Yeah, I think many people are subscribing now to the fact that we're connected. We hear all the time, body, mind, spirit. And those are things that we take in, but not often do we stop and really analyze, what does that mean? Body, mind, spirit. Well, most people will acknowledge that means they're connected. So if I have something going on at the mind, it's going to affect the body, it's going to affect the spirit. If I have something at a spirit level, an energy level, it's going to affect the mind, it's going to affect the body. So it just goes to reason that if we've got something that is so pervasive in our lives, like an addiction, that if we look at the body, the mind, we put the soul in there, which is where most addiction really lives, at the level of the soul and the spirit, and we work on all of those things simultaneously, it just stands to reason that people would have a better chance of getting well, and getting to the other side of an addiction, not just, we're taught, at least in our culture, in the old way of looking at addiction, hey, the best I'll ever be able to do is just manage it. I just want to keep it at bay. And depression and anxiety as well. We never ask why people are depressed. Why are you anxious? We only look at the fact that you are anxious, so here, take a drug to solve that problem.
And here we're not just talking of the drugs we find in the streets or alcohol, but we're talking also, and this is happening a lot, and you're seeing a lot of that, addicted to the medicine, to the antidepressant, to the, what else?
Yeah, if we look at, people often take drugs. In the beginning, it's a connection, wow, I feel so euphoric. But then it comes to cover something up. So addiction is pretty much of a symptom. And so if we look at people that use chemicals, they know that they're going to get in trouble somehow. They know that they're going to have trouble with their families, their jobs, with the law. But very often they'll say, that's later, and I'll put that off. If we look at antidepressant users, and right now in the United States, antidepressants are marketed directly to people. So they'll be watching a commercial and there's a person fishing and they say, gosh, I would like to fish. And the guy says, but I used to feel terrible, but now I feel great. And then he'll talk about all the side effects, all the problems that may come from taking this drug. And the person watching this will say, I don't care. I feel so bad that I need to change. I feel so deeply not right that I don't care about the side effects. I'm going to take it anyway. So there's really, when you look at it that way, there's not that much of a difference. One is socially acceptable and the other one is not. But they're both trying to cover up the same problem, which is that somehow, some way, we don't feel right. And as we were talking a little while ago, we look at the kind of the human condition and the human problems. And, we stem to some basic core issues that people have, which are separation. Yeah. And, somehow that looks like, wow, the world is working, all the birds are flying south, everything, the flowers are, all that is happening, but somehow I'm separate from that. God, it doesn't apply to me. And that will then micro down in people's lives, that they're isolated, they're different, they feel like an outcast. They don't belong. They're separate.
Yeah. Or even I'm not worthy of that. I don't belong here.
Yeah, I don't. I'm not. Somehow, this all doesn't apply to me, and so then we get lonely and isolated and depressed. And then we look at issues like abandonment, abuse, betrayal, safety. These are what happens to people, and then the zillions of iterations of that then become people's identity. Our diagnoses. So we have to get to our kind of core pieces in order to heal.
Yeah. Just before the healing, what is the pivotal moment? When can you just reach deep inside? Because I know you have a lot of people here that come really just, this is the last thing that they're thinking of doing. But how can you just find the courage to do this? How can you find the courage to want to heal yourself? Because it must be scary, no? At the same time, and you're like, what is all this for? No, is there that kind of conversation too? You went through it.
Yeah, I think we get to the point where we know something needs to happen, but so many times people will search for answers, and we get an answer, and we try to make sense of it. And what's so interesting that the problem of addiction is not of the mind, or at least of the conscious mind. It might be of the unconscious brain, but it's not of the conscious mind. So when we go to a therapist, we'll talk and it makes so much sense. And I say, okay, I understand. I'm gonna change my life. And then the next day we're doing the exact opposite. And so
then we make ourselves wrong and 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 wrong.
And use more and more chemicals and more antidepressants. What's interesting is most people are pretty smart. And if they could have figured out why they're doing what they don't want to do, they would have stopped doing it by now. They would have figured it out. So we talk here about repairing the brain, healing the body, and recovering the soul. And what's so interesting, the brain, we get in all these limbic unconscious patterns of survival. And when we don't get to our core traumas and heal them, we keep reliving them. And the limbic brain thinks that they're still happening. And so this will then haunt people their whole lives. And again, we can keep it at bay, but we're never really free of it. There's always something stalking us. And then there's the body piece. There's so much research now about cellular memory and cells holding the energy of trauma. Cells hold information. So we have to clear that piece.
And just not clearing our own, but I guess it can come from also generations or past lives.
You bet. People, the handing down of family of origin issues is so important. Whatever your parents actually didn't heal, they're going to give to you. And we've all heard people say, you know what, I will never grow up and be like my mother or father. We've heard that so many times. And what happens to those people most of the time? They grow up exactly like their mother or father.
I think that's a huge, that gives me in life a lot of courage to think that way, Dean, to think that you can heal actually not just for yourself, but for generations. And it just like gives even more like strength and courage to go there, because you're like, oh my God, maybe I'm the one that actually can make a whole difference in the whole lineage. And so you're not just doing it for yourself, you're doing it for a whole bunch of people.
You bet. And actually in a quantum world, we heal both directions. We heal up the line and down the line. Nice. But when we think about genetics, and it's up until fairly recently, it was understood that, wow, you're handed this genetic pattern at birth, and that's your lot in life, and you're stuck with it. Now we realize that, hey, genes actually turn on and off. They express themselves or not, and that's a function of the environment that we live in. And that's called epigenetics. The important thing about that, which brings us to this whole holistic concept, right now, our genes, our environment is mostly what we create in our minds. So most of us live in controlled 72-degree environments. Meals come at a predictable time. Our environments are very stable. So it's our thoughts that then spark epigenetic changes. So working holistically means that, wow, if I can now begin to understand that and begin to heal my unconscious limbic brain trauma, then I can start to become a master of my thoughts, which will then translate into becoming a master of my body. And
There's great books about epigenetic too. We must say it. I mean, Dr. Bruce Lipton, and there's a lot of other. Maybe you have some recommendations just right there. But I've done some epigenetic work, and I'm amazed at how it just dormant genes are waking up too, and you're accessing then a whole other part of yourself that were just not there before. And it's pretty amazing to start stepping in these new, beautiful, gentle grounds. It's not like a scary thing at all.
You know, it's sort of like when people come here, and when we think about the change, it looks like we have to jump across the Grand Canyon. How will I ever accomplish that? Because we get so ingrained in patterns. And once we do it, it's interesting, the people that go through the process here, at the end they look back and they say, gosh, what took me so long, And it's so interesting. People come here and they have big diagnoses and big problems. And in very short order, within a matter of some days, as they're going through the first part of the process, they stop talking about that. And then they'll begin to talking about what's really going on for them, which is how they feel about themselves and how they feel about the world around them. And most people have no idea how they feel about themselves or the world, because these are all unconscious belief patterns that we're stuck in. So many times we don't feel good about ourselves. We feel separate. We've been wronged. We've been hurt. We were hurt 10 years ago and we're still living it now. And most people are not aware of that. So we have to heal a lot of those patterns. And then what's interesting, the epigenetic response to that, and I've lived this personally in my own life. I spent 30 years in addiction, 20 years of them in treatment in one way or another.
What kind of addiction, Gene?
Mostly opiate. So that's heroin, Percocet, those kinds of things. What's so interesting is that now I've had a couple of operations on my mouth. I've been prescribed those drugs, and I can't even take them. That my body kind of has a reaction that pushes them away. So my brain has obviously changed. You hear so often that people, unless we're keeping my addiction at bay, I'll have cravings, I'll start that whole process over. When I took these painkillers, my brain was like, no, they stopped the aching of the bone, but then the next day I'm like, I couldn't take them anymore. So that means something in my body is different. Oh, yeah. And if I went with my file to a big treatment center and I said, I'm not really an addict, they would say, you're in denial and you're crazy. But I can tell you, in my own life experience, it's not a part of my daily thinking, and it's no longer my identity. And so when we can break free of our old identity in the way that the past lives in us, now we're available for the future, and we can begin to be pulled by our destiny. Where
at service, clearly you are.
Most people, whether they know it or not, when they can stop suffering, most people wonder why they're here and what is the meaning, and why they want connection, and they want to have a love, and they want to have meaning and purpose. And when we can clear out trauma, then we become available. And once people begin to be pulled by that,
and once you start living it and seeing it for yourself, just that one spark.
That's it. And then it changes. All we're doing here is helping people change direction in life, and then giving them enough momentum to head in the other direction and hit a few bumps along the way and keep going. And then life is different. So the people that come here, when they leave, and we have, our success rate is exponentially higher than anywhere else. And
that's why I'm doing this video, Dean. I mean, I'm fully supportive, and if you do know somebody with addiction, this is definitely one of the solution, and that's why I'm here, yeah.
Yeah, you bet. And, so it's really about change, and it's an internal change, not a cerebral change, but that place where we get something that's an embodiment, where something comes over us, that we have an experience that goes, yes, something is different. And now all of a sudden, my whole body will respond to that. And I think that people watching this may even we've all had some taste of that kind of experience in our life, or else we would have given up by now. Even the people that are suffering, what's so interesting, The people that call and come here, you know, they're on the edge of death's door because they're just so hopeless. You know, they've tried so many things. They've been around the block. And, you know, they're ready to give up, but there's still something burning in there. There's still a little flame in there, or else they would have given up. Yeah. And so when we can get that and help them to nurture that, all of a sudden possibilities open. Yeah.
And I just want to just say that there's only 7 people at a time here, more or less. And this is really, there's a garden here outside, and we had done some videos about that, of the nutritious food also that you eat, and the shamanic work that you do here as well, and the brain work, and the emotional. I mean, this is quite a process, and an ongoing process. Unfortunately, I'm running out of battery, Dean, in my camera, and this is kind of, we're closing this conversation. Is there a last word, something that really is, I know all your words are just meaningful and beautiful, and I love, you know, who you are as a human being, but is there one portion that you'd like to say?
Say that no matter what your situation, no matter where you are in life or what has happened to you, that you can change because many other people have done it. So if you're still alive, if there's a glimmer of hope, then something can happen for you, because that happened to me and I've seen it hundreds of times here. So don't give up. That's my message. You know, and if you want to call us or go to our website and look, there's so much information, whether people come here.
Being in contact, that's the start. Just sending a little message and saying, how does this work? Is this for me?
Yeah, you bet. And on our website are a bunch of videos. I think one we did, and they talk about epigenetics and neuroplasticity and other science that can give people hope. Again, even if you don't come here, it might give you a spark that something else is possible other than kind of the recovery paradigm as it is out there, which is becoming kind of antiquated. So,
beautiful, Dean. Don't give up.
Don't you give up, Lilou. You do amazing work, and thank you for spreading your messages and all that you're doing.
It's an honor to be with you, Dean, today, and thank you so much.
Right back at you. Thank you, Lilou.
Much, much love, my delicious co-creators. We send you a lot of love from beautiful Arizona, and hope you take this step. Thank you. Bye.